when Arch took a look at AI, AI and the recent AI advances really starts looking like the work that people are doing in a factory. And so what we try to understand is, okay, what are the actions and the jobs and the roles that have the most repetitive knowledge-based tasks that could be accelerated with AI? Where's there the most need for what AI can do? And we broke down these three areas. So the first one, equipment and process optimization, quality and compliance optimization, and planning optimization. Let me talk a little bit more about what that means. Under each of these three use case areas we talk about, we then split up, okay, what are the top things that actually drive out? What are the top use cases? So for example, in quality and compliance, what if you could automatically root cause every single defect automatically using AI? That's now possible. So now you have a very powerful way to save cost by reducing scrap, by reducing repair time in factories. And how does it work? We take our data platform, secure, trusted data, verified back to the ground truth, combine it with MES data, all the process information, what steps go together, what the product lineage is, put those together, put a very advanced AI model on top with the right guidance to think like a quality engineer. And now for the first time, you're able to root cause every defect in 5 or 10 minutes and say, like, here is where we found it. It was this feeder, it was that reel of materials, it was that lot, it was that supplier. This previously would have required, hours or days of time of someone like manually putting data together, ad hoc analysis, writing scripts, running SQL queries, pulling files together, running reports, just to get to that underlying root cause to then take action. And now it can be done that the result can be presented to that person. Hey, here's what it is. Maybe you want to solve this, or maybe you want to go deeper. And because it can be done automatically now, you can do it as a matter of course on every defect or every low yield drop. Whereas previously you only had so many hours in the day and only so many experienced people who could run this level of deep expert investigation. Let me now reflect that back on equipment and planning optimization. There's a lot of things in this category, but the one that I think is most interesting is micro stoppages. So what I mean by that is, everyone understands that unplanned downtime in your factory is very damaging, right? I got a factory line, it's not producing. Maybe the cost of downtime per hour is $200, $300, $400, and I want to avoid that. But there's always been a challenge, which is detecting small downtimes and figuring out their root cause is a very manual process. Everyone might have an OE tool or a spreadsheet or a whiteboard where you're supposed to write down every time the line is down for longer than 30 minutes, here's the problem. And it takes a lot of effort, a lot of work. But what people didn't see is that the line actually stops for very short periods of time, very frequently. So maybe hundreds of times in a day, the line pauses for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute. Each one is individually too short for any single person to go and look at it. Like they fix it and move on. And for the first time, what we built here is, first of all, a tool called our React tool, which actually tracks every single micro stoppage on the line. And it knows this because it knows what product you're running from the MES. It knows the cycle time from actual data, how long should it take. So it's able to say there was a 5-second gap here, a 10-second gap here, a 15-second gap here. And then now what we can do with AI is take each of those hundreds of individual events and root cause each one back to what the common bucket was. This one was a feeder. This one was a lack of materials. This one was, an error code that somebody clicked a button and turned the machine back on. And then what we do that is we then synthesize that with another layer of AI into a Pareto of, hey, you had 500 stoppages over the last 2 days, and each one was between 5 seconds and 15 seconds. Overall, that was actually much more important than your 1 hour of unplanned major downtime. This was 2 or 3 hours in aggregate. But for the first time, we provide visibility into what are the commonalities. People always assume there's like a death by 1,000 cuts. You can never address this because it was never worth your time to investigate any single incident, and you didn't know what the common causes were. So for example, in doing this, we were able to figure out that actually across hundreds of SMT lines, about 10% of all production time is lost just to people having to wiggle feeders on the side of the pick and place machine because they weren't set properly. And so the machine stops, it can't pull parts, it pauses for 30 seconds, operator runs over, jiggles the feeder, puts it back in service, and this happens between once every 5 to 7 minutes on average on an SMT line. This is based on actual real world data and the fact we actually do these analyses now on every single instance. It was only 45 seconds long, but we root caused it back to this feeder got adjusted. And now for the first time, we provide visibility into what are the common root causes behind these micro stoppages. And we're able to see, which was intuitive to a lot of people, like micro stoppages, that's where the problem is, but you weren't sure, okay, what do I do about it? What's the actual root cause that I fix? And now for the first time, We can both track them all individually, get that list, okay, here's all the stoppages, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, automatically investigate each one, and then surface that commonality to an engineer for review to then say, oh, actually, it's always this feeder. Let me just take it out of service and calibrate it. Now I'm gonna get back an hour of time tomorrow that I never really realized where it was going before. I just knew I wasn't meeting my plan. So there's a lot more we do on this side, but that's one of the most interesting ones where AI really accelerates. And now planning. So planning is an area for a long time where, it's still a highly manual expert activity. You have just a small number of people in the factory, maybe 1, 2 planners with 30 years experience. And at the end of the day, you got all of these tools. You got your ERP, your MRP, resource planning, maybe even APS, advanced planning tool, but there's still somebody in the factory with Excel actually making the shop floor production plan for the week. So what we're doing here is helping that person in a variety of ways. So number one is, let's take their plan and actually run it against actual historical data. Let's tell them like, yeah, okay, you made your plan, you have all the constraints in your head, but the standard time that you used that was in your Excel spreadsheet was never updated. Actually, it takes, an extra 5 seconds per cycle. It actually is faster. So from the get-go, we can take a plan from good to great before it gets put into production, using AI to analyze it against actual data from people running our optimization tools to know, okay, what's the reality? So then separately, we can then link that plan to the live data coming off the shop floor. So I got my plan and I can see in real time when I start to deviate from it, when downtime is too high, when a work order is going to be delayed, or when it's going to push out another work order because it's not going to be done in time to get to the other area of the factory where I was expecting it. So those sorts of like automated adjustments and reactions to changes in the factory planning environment are things we're able to do now in our product, and increasingly things we're building into that functionality. And then the bigger questions are the more strategic ones. What if scenario planning, capacity analysis? Can I take this demand over the next 6 months? This is an area where our structured data in KPI sets, trusted structured data driven back to or linked back to ground truth. We have this AI analyst we're putting on top of it to answer questions for executives, which is, why did I have 25% more labor than I thought over the last quarter? Well, let's dig down. It was this set of downtime on this line. It was this particular planning issue. It was this particular area over here where someone changed the plan in the last minute. Those are the real reasons. And we finally bring data and visibility at the strategic level to those kind of very important strategic decisions.